Something interesting is happening at Ford, and it is not the kind of headline most people expected. According to the company's own statement, governments in North America and Europe have been talking with Ford about how its commercial vehicles and technology could support modern defense needs. And that immediately raises a bigger question. Why Ford and why now? The answer seems to come down to something very practical: speed, scale, capability, and durability. Ford is arguing that instead of waiting years and spending billions on purpose-built systems, governments may be able to use proven commercial platforms much faster and at a lower cost. That idea makes a lot of sense when you think about how much pressure public fleets are under to stay efficient, adaptable, and ready for real-world demands. Ford is not trying to reinvent itself overnight. It is pointing to what it already does well. Through Ford Pro, the company already serves construction crews, utility teams, and other essential workers with vehicles, features, and software built for hard use. That matters because the needs are surprisingly similar: move people, move equipment, keep everything running, do it reliably, do it without drama. And honestly, drama is the last thing anyone wants when a fleet has to show up and perform. The article also says some governments already rely on Ford vehicles for security-related uses, including Ford Ranger transport and police interceptor solutions. That detail is important because it shows this is not just theory. There is already a foundation here. Ford is not asking governments to trust a random idea. It is asking them to look at a platform they already know. And that platform is built around real-world toughness. The F-Series, Ranger, and Super Duty lines are already designed for punishing terrain and demanding jobs. That gives Ford a strong argument that its vehicles are not just capable on paper, but useful in environments where performance matters most. One of the most interesting pieces is Pro Power on Board, which turns a truck or van into a mobile power source. That is a small feature with a big impact. It changes the way a vehicle can be used. It is no longer just transportation. It becomes part of the job itself. It can support field work, remote operations, or any situation where power access is limited. That kind of flexibility is exactly why these talks are getting attention. Ford's bigger message is also pretty clear. It assembles more vehicles in America than any other manufacturer, but it is thinking globally. The company says its international footprint matters because security is a collaborative effort. The Ford Ranger, for example, is built and sold around the world, which makes it a logical candidate for international cooperation. In other words, Ford is not selling one region on one idea. It is saying the same kind of dependable platform can work in different countries, different climates, and different operating conditions. That is a powerful pitch because consistency matters in large-scale fleet planning. If a system works in more than one place, it becomes easier to scale, maintain, and support. Ford says its mission here is simple: support those in uniform with mobility, safety, and transport, and that message is backed by the company's history. During World War II, Ford's assembly lines produced huge numbers of aircraft, trucks, and engines for the Allied effort. Later, the company hired disabled veterans. More recently, during the pandemic, it shifted its manufacturing expertise to produce millions of protective items and ventilators. That history matters because it shows a pattern. When pressure rises, Ford has repeatedly found ways to adapt. It may not always look dramatic from the outside, but it has often been effective. The company is also pointing to its Proud to Honor initiative, which works with veteran and service organizations through events and family support programs. That adds a human side to the story. It shows that this is not just about business expansion. It is also about how Ford presents its role in public life and community support. Still, the article is careful, and that caution is important. This is early-stage work. Ford says it has not finalized any specific defense projects. The conversations with governments in North America and Europe are described as productive, but nothing is locked in yet. That distinction matters. It keeps the story grounded. It tells us there is interest, but not a finished deal. That may sound modest, but in business terms, that's often where the most important changes begin, quietly, before the major announcement, before the rollout, before the bigger picture becomes obvious. Ford says it is approaching this opportunity with the same discipline behind its Ford Plus plan, focusing on growth that builds on core strengths, reduces dependence on cyclical swings, and leans more into technology. That's a smart direction. It's not flashy for the sake of being flashy. It's practical, and practical can be powerful when it's done well.
My honest take is that this is one of the more believable strategic ideas Ford could pursue. It uses what the company already has, it builds on existing strengths, it avoids pretending to be something completely different, and that's usually where the strongest long-term moves come from. The real story here is not just about vehicles, it's about logistics, reliability, service, and flexibility. The companies and governments that win in complex environments are usually the ones that can move fast, adapt quickly, and keep working when conditions get tough. Ford seems to believe its commercial platforms already do a lot of that heavy lifting, and if these talks continue to progress, the company could find itself playing a much bigger role than many people expected. For now, the story is still developing, the discussions are ongoing, the projects are not finalized, but the direction is clear. Ford sees an opportunity to support public sector needs using vehicles and technology it already knows how to build at scale. And that's what makes this worth watching, because sometimes the biggest shifts don't begin with a dramatic reveal. They begin with a simple question: what if the tools we already have are enough to solve the next problem?